From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Making better beer.
I'm Charles Denny. The hope for hops, the crop needed to make many of our craft beers. University of Tennessee Ag Research has a new project to help brewers. That story coming up on AgDay.
The World Trade Organization has something to say about retaliatory tariffs China put in place against the U.S. as Ukraine works to continue to move grain out of the country along any route possible.
And they want to take over the Ukrainian markets.
The latest as farmers in the country continue to battle to bring a crop to market right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. For the first time since Russia ended the Black Sea grain deal, a ship has departed the Ukrainian port of Odesa. The ship has been stuck in port since February of last year. Ukrainian officials say the Hong Kong flagged container ship left the port and is traveling through a temporary corridor established for civilian vessels to and from the Black Sea ports of Ukraine. It's reported to be heading to Bosporus, carrying more than 30,000 tons of cargo, including food products. But what has been the impact of the loss of the grain deal? Roman Renishin had a career organizing agricultural tours in Ukraine and around the world. Now he's working to rebuild Ukraine's rural livelihoods destroyed by war with his group World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine. Now he recently provided an update online.
This is the losses of up to $60 million due to inability to export and to sell for the reasonable price of all the commodities that are produced in Ukraine. The prices, there are some, that is quite the most extreme prediction, but some experts say that because of Ukraine being unable to export their commodities, the prices of corn and wheat might go up to 40% on the world market. Russia is using this situation and they say, we will, instead of Ukraine, ship 50,000 up to 50,000 for free. But shipping first 50,000 for free and selling all the other commodities that they grow 40% higher is a good business, bloody business, terroristic or Russistic business. However, this is how they think. They want to isolate us and they want to take over the Ukrainian markets by their commodities.
Russian President Vladimir Putin pledging to ship free grain to at least 6 African countries over the next several months following the collapse of that Black Sea grain initiative. It was hoped the UN broker deal would help keep millions of people fed around the world. And Ukraine continues to also move grain shipments through other ports, specifically the nearest port of Constanța in Romania via the Danube River. Reuters says the port has shipped more than 8 million metric tons of grain in the first 7 months of the year. The Danube River has become Ukraine's last water route to export grain, with Black Sea ports mostly cut off. But Russia appears to have renewed attacks at Ukrainian ports along that Danube River. Ukrainian officials saying Russia is using drones to strike grain storage facilities in the country's southern Odesa region. Ukraine's Operational Command South said Russia hit the territory of one of the ports, destroying hangars with grain and ag machinery. Ukraine's Air Force reports it destroyed 13 drones in the Odesa and Mykolaiv region. And now the U.S. is reportedly working with Turkey and Ukraine, along with neighboring countries, to develop alternative export routes for Ukrainian grain. The Wall Street Journal reporting a U.S.-supported plan aims to increase Ukraine's capacity to export 4 million tons of grain a month using the Danube River by October. Meanwhile, the Journal reporting that Turkey and the UN are continuing attempts to persuade Russia to rejoin that Black Sea grain deal. An important ruling from the World Trade Organization. It says China's decision regarding certain retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. were inconsistent with the organization's rules. A panel with the WTO recognizing the U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum put in place during the Trump administration as security measures while rejecting China's decision to impose tariffs on $2.4 billion worth of U.S. products in retaliation. The U.S. Trade Representative's office announcing it was pleased with the report, calling China's retaliation sham safeguarded tariffs. In response to the decision, Beijing called on the U.S. to remove its tariffs on metal immediately. Several weather agencies around the globe are reporting that last month will go down as the hottest July on record. Now, NOAA is saying the month is the warmest on record since at least 1850, when record keeping started. And it reports the global surface temperature was 62.42 degrees in July. That's just over 2 degrees above the 20th century average. But experts say the oceans are playing a role in those increases in land temperatures.
A lot of that warmth is being driven by incredibly high oceanic temperatures.
Weather experts say warmer oceans send more moisture into the warmer air, creating heavier rainfall events. And dangerous heat is persisting in the Northwest. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has an update there. Matt.
Yeah, Clint, of course, the big focus is the heat back into the Pacific Northwest. Now, what I wanted to do was take not only the heat into consideration, but also the dry air and the wind. That's where our fire weather risk starts to elevate back into Washington and Montana, at times critical for portions of Washington. And that's also including Montana. That's on Thursday. On Friday, again, the heat is still going to be there, but we're going to combine that with, of course, the dry air, and still those winds are going to be up into portions of Montana. So it's not just the heat that we're going to be concentrating on, but also the potential for some wildfires and some of the potential there for them to not only start, but spread pretty quickly where it is hot, dry, and windy. There's a look at what we have with the fire weather risk coming up for you Friday. Now, in just a little bit, we'll take a full look at your extended forecast, show you how that heat is going to move around portions of the United States. But go ahead and take a look at your screen now. You got, oh, check this out. Little friend getting a good scratch right behind the ear, maybe. Yeah, this was shared by a ranch in northern Arizona, saying that's the look you get when you're truly loved. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Federal regulators are changing water restrictions on the Colorado River for the upcoming year, thanks to a wet winter season. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation announcing Lake Mead and the lower Colorado River will operate under Tier 1 water shortage conditions next year. That will ease water restrictions in Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico, allowing them to retain billions of gallons of Colorado River water and build up their water reserves instead of relying heavily on other regions. Now, this change follows this past winter when a series of atmospheric rivers effectively reversed the decline in water levels at Lake Mead and Powell, the two largest reservoirs in the country. And it looks like the weather has also helped this year's cranberry crop in Wisconsin. The state reporting it's expecting to produce just under 5 million barrels this year. That's about 130,000 more barrels than last year. It says if projections stay the course, Wisconsin will remain the largest cranberry producer in the world, growing and harvesting about 60% of the nation's supply. The U.S. Cranberry Marketing Committee says about 53% of the country's total production is exported, with top destinations including the UK, the EU, China, Mexico, and South Korea. Grains working their way into positive territory at midweek. We'll take a look at the latest trends coming up next. And later, we're off to Tennessee to see how researchers are working to improve hops for farmers and brewers alike in the country. An update on a story we brought you earlier this week. A vessel carrying 30,000 tons of Polish wheat anchored offshore in Texas. The cargo has now been rejected for import because it contained, quote, prohibited seeds. The vessel Yochow was being held at port due to concerns about possible contamination with corn. The U.S. millers have recently turned to European wheat imports as prices rise here at home due to drought. However, U.S. Customs and Border Protection have now ordered the cargo be exported somewhere else. At last report, the ship was still located just off the port of Houston. After a down day across the board on Tuesday, markets recovered some at midweek. AgDay's Michelle Rook has a look ahead in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Mike Miner with Professional Ag Marketing. And Mike, now that we've got the WASDE in the rear view mirror, the grain markets really are starting to focus in on trying to determine yield, aren't they?
Definitely. And when we saw the AgDay report come out on Friday and a weaker close there after they had drug yield down a little bit, it made sense that we were able to decrease the yield going into that August report. And I think from when that was taken and through the month of July up to August here, it made sense. We hadn't experienced any August rainfall really up until that point. So going forward, that August report could easily be the lowest yield that we see this year. And with some of these rainfall levels going through the past week or so, this crop is easily growing in our book. So seeing from our crop tour alone to seeing what the rest of the country is, I see this crop having a good chance of increasing yield going forward.
Yeah, how focused is the market going to be on all of these crop tours, especially because we don't do field surveys in the August WASDE anymore?
I think it's going to rely heavily upon it, and you're going to start to see a lot more past this week. You start off, we had the DTN Grow Intelligence one. You've got the Pro Farmer one coming up. There's going to continue to be a lot of weight on it, but I am going to struggle with them finding enough wrong with the crop to get the market too excited or the bulls excited. So there's areas, maybe they, like normal, have a positive impact on the market, but I think it'll be tempered this year.
All right. So what does that mean for price going forward then, obviously?
We're going to need some new bullish news to help pop this market. Maybe it's China and their weather problems. Maybe it is this, late heat that's going to try to spark some weather buying for some reason. I think we're going to need to see that and demand. I mean, ethanol numbers have been pretty fantastic too. So we're going to need something to spark a fire under this corn market once again. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough road.
You bet. Thanks for joining us, Mike Miner with Professional Ag Marketing. That is Markets Now. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
It's going to be hot next week. Doesn't matter where you're located. Well, it does a little bit, but you see the map behind me. This is August 21st through August 25th. The map is completely colored in these above normal temps across the United States. And it's a pattern that we've been talking about the last couple of days. Even last week, things started to show up about another big ridge coming through as we, of course, close out the summer, or at least not really close out, but get on the tail end of it. So again, there's that temperature outlook. In top right corner of your screen, a little pocket of some retreating cooler air up into the northeast. But this is a ridge of high pressure showing up not only with the temperatures, but the rain chances as well, as early as today and tomorrow. So again, this is Thursday at 10 p.m. And see, things become very quiet across the plains and a good portion of the United States. A little bit more active weather by Friday and Saturday on the west coast as that ridge starts to move. That heat, rather than staying just on the coast, will be moving to the east. So we stay quiet Friday as well as Saturday and Sunday. Underneath that ridge is where we're expecting the hottest temperatures. And much like what we saw, it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago, a ridge is going to set up, and then on the outside of the ridge, that's where you get some cloud cover, maybe some showers and thunderstorms, but overall, the stronger the ridge, the harder it is to produce showers and develop showers and thunderstorms underneath it. Again, there's Friday at 7 p.m. up into the northeast. That system is going to be exiting to the northeast, and there's really not much coming through to give us any kind of dips in the jet stream. We're watching some very early energy. This is the jet stream on Friday, back out here towards the west, which should provide some relief for parts of Washington and Oregon. But you'll see as we go through the weekend and next week, this doesn't just move, it grows. And the bigger it gets, the less shallow these troughs become. So the energy and the cooler air attached to them, while it does provide some relief into the northeast, it's not nearly strong enough to move this ridge or cut it out off to the east. So it is looking like a large and long trend with that above average temperatures, those above average temperatures. Let's go take a look at a couple of cities. You got Dublin, not Ireland, Virginia, mostly sunny, high around 83 degrees. Highgate, Vermont, scattered thunderstorms, high around 85. And then got West Virginia,
The EPA and cattlemen see eye to eye on a water issue. I'll explain that next. And later, turning water into beer often uses something called hops. We'll see how researchers are helping in Tennessee in the country.
Drover's Report on Ag Day is brought to you by Beringer Ingelheim, because you, the people who put cattle first, are second to none.
The EPA is denying 2 petitions from environmental and community groups. The groups wanted a revision of rules dealing with the nation's biggest animal operations, which hold thousands of hogs, chickens, and cattle. In a letter to advocacy groups, EPA said it will look closely at its program overseeing the farms as well as existing pollution limits. The agency is saying it will establish a panel with representatives of ag, environmental groups, researchers, and others to develop recommendations. Now, under the Clean Water Act, EPA regulates large farms known as concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, covered by federal pollution permits. Federal law requires only those known to discharge waste to obtain permits, although some states make others do so. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association thanking the EPA for rejecting those petitions, saying in a statement, quote, "By rejecting these 2 petitions that sought to directly attack animal agriculture, the EPA is protecting cattle producers from frivolous distractions and allowing them to return to the important job of stewarding our natural resources and feeding the nation," end quote. New information about an Arizona rancher accused of murder. Court records show prosecutors are asking a charge of aggravated assault be dropped against George Allen Kelly of Keno Springs. Now, Kelly is accused of shooting and killing an unauthorized immigrant on his property back in January. Prosecutors say they have been unable to find a key witness in the case who they say is also a victim. Now, it's reported another witness served time in prison for smuggling cannabis across the border back in 2015. Kelly's trial on the second-degree murder charge is scheduled to start next month. Up next, research you can taste. We'll see how university scientists in Tennessee are helping brewers put their stamp on hops in the volunteer state. Tennessee's craft beer industry depends on ag to grow the ingredients needed to make their product. And as Charles Denny reports from the University of Tennessee, a new research project with the university's Institute of Agriculture could strengthen that partnership in the future.
At Yeehaw Brewing, they craft several beers, mild flavors and stronger stuff, light lagers up to darker styles. But every beer they make includes hops, the grain added to the mix of water, sugar, and barley. It's what gives beer that beer taste and aroma.
Absolutely. I think hops are a really integral part of beer, just as barley and all the malted varieties of grains you use. They're really important for the structure of beer, but they can tell a story far beyond just the flavor of the beer or the style.
Chris Meadows is Yeehaw's master brewer and a friend of East Tennessee agriculture. Much like a grocer wants fresh produce, he needs the best ingredients to make Yeehaw's product. Craft beer making is an expanding scene in urban areas of Tennessee, with 28 breweries in Knoxville alone.
And that really impacts the local agriculture and the economy in a huge way.
Yeehaw and other beverage producers look forward to the research that will be generated here, the new hop yard on UT AgResearch land. Hops are these green cone-shaped flowers, a climbing perennial that can grow 2 feet in a week under ideal conditions. And that's the hope for hops in this experiment, where the plants will climb these wires in a trellis system.
Tennessee has a lot of home for those products. We just got to figure out how to grow them, store them. We're looking at a variety trial where we're going to be comparing about 20 varieties sourced from various origins in the U.S., as well as agronomy. Eventually we're going to look at supplemental lighting.
UT AgResearch will also study crop spacing here at the hop yard, as well as how to deal with pests and diseases. Hops can be a challenging crop, and here it's all about finding the best growing conditions.
1, 2, 3!
The UT Center for Profitable Agriculture helps support the state's brewers and our farmers, and the hop yard is expected to be a solid future partnership for both groups.
and people are interested in tasting something unique and different. So I help connect them with our brewers in the state and learn what they are looking for in order to let that taste of Tennessee come through in the glass.
The Hop Yard and Yeehaw both offer variety, both in the field and on tap. Research-focused brewing. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.